Hard on the heels of the primary here in New Hampshire is the Republican primary in South Carolina, and the GOP contenders are already lining up to get the endorsement of Congressman Tim Scott, who joins us now from Charleston. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning. Good to be with you this morning.
Sure thing. The reason that all these candidates want your endorsement is that you held these highly publicized town hall meetings with each one of them, introducing them to South Carolina voters. So Mitt Romney, who has a very formidable lead here in New Hampshire, what's he going to encounter when he gets to South Carolina?
Well, first and foremost, it's very important for him to spend more time in South Carolina, so I'm happy to see that he was here yesterday. He has plans to be here earlier next week as well. So what he needs to do really is to have a strong presence. He has a strong organization in many states. He needs to have one in South Carolina. With Nikki Haley on his side, he certainly is making a lot of progress. There is great hope and optimism for his campaign, but there's no question that Santorum is surging, and Gingrich has had a lead in South Carolina about 30 days ago. So it's going to be a very interesting race to the finish. I look forward to see which candidate really puts together, coalesces the troops, particularly the conservative base that we have in South Carolina, for a victory.
Well, I want to ask you about Speaker Gingrich, Congressman, because he made some comments that raised some eyebrows yesterday. I'd like to get your take. Stirring up controversy with his comments about food stamps. Take a listen, and then I'll ask you to comment.
Now, there's no neighborhood I know of in America where if you went around and asked people, would you rather your children had food stamps or paychecks, you wouldn't end up with a majority saying they'd rather have a paycheck. And so I'm prepared, if the NAACP invites me, I'll go to their convention and talk about why the African American community should demand paychecks and not be satisfied with food stamps.
Do you think the African American community is satisfied with food stamps?
Well, let me ask a preposterous comment as it relates to what the African-American community would like to have. There's no question with one of the highest unemployment rates in our nation's history, particularly in the African-American community, the focus should really be on education. One of the things that our country is stood strong for is the educational opportunities, and the greatest civil rights issue of the 21st century will be educational choice, and that's why we ought to be focusing our attention on finding ways to bring in good schools in poor neighborhoods, which means public, private, or charter schools. We need school choice as a part of the apparatus to move our communities forward all over this country.
But as you said, Speaker Gingrich has had a lead in South Carolina. Do you think comments like that are going to hurt him, particularly with the African American community in South Carolina?
Well, certainly in a general election, those comments hurt some, I think, a lot more. I think when you look at the conservative base in the Republican Party, we're paying attention to not only what you do, but what you say. We need a candidate who beats Barack Obama. So we're going to take a look at everything from what Santorum says, what Newt Gingrich says, what Mitt Romney says, but more importantly, what they're doing and where their focus should be, which is on the economy. When we talk about the economy, we need to bring our country together and not look for ways to divide.
Very quickly, all the other candidates are going to be looking to stop Romney's momentum in South Carolina. Rick Santorum hasn't had a huge bump from his Iowa finish here in New Hampshire. Do you think that'll change in South Carolina?
I think November 10th in New Hampshire will be a very important date. The other part of the equation that's very important is what Rick Perry does in South Carolina. So when you have three candidates who are focused on the conservative base, and now you throw a fourth person into the pile, you'll see that we'll have a very difficult time making a decision. That's why half the Republican voters in South Carolina are still looking for their candidate. There is a race to the finish. I'm glad to see all these folks spending time and focusing on the state that picks Republican nominees.
All right, splitting up that conservative vote, Congressman Tim Scott, thank you so much.